Hey everybody, welcome to Grimsforge Gaming. Today we are going to cover my Valkorion build and a couple things about this build. Number one, obviously you can see that we are in Imperial City. So this is my Imperial City Telvar farming setup currently. And so if I want to gather a bunch of Telvar and then convert it to gold, I'll jump on this build. It's not bad in a PvP situation either. Like if I run into people, obviously anybody can get zerged down. The particular armor set that I'm running and setup that I'm running, you can see when you're running Imperial Physique, you have this blue hue or glow to you, and so it basically puts a target on your head. So we are rolling the dice even more though, because let's jump into the build. So if you looked right there, you could see down unbuffed, my spell damage is at 6,400 spell damage. And when we buff up, actually, it goes up much higher, 7,500 spell damage. And then if I were to use the spell damage, infused spell damage on my back bar, I will hit over 8k spell damage on this build. It hits extremely hard. Your clear, as far as clearing mobs, is next to none. Like killing banners, killing world bosses and stuff, you can solo it and they're gone super quick. If you hit a player, they will blow up, but if they hit you, you'll blow up as well. Jumping into the build, the very first thing to note is we are running Thracians, and Thracians is getting changed. This is actually the only reason I'm releasing this build right now, is because Thracians in its current form will be no more, and I at least wanted to get the build out there and let people see what I was running around on with Valkorion. But killing an enemy grants you a persistent stack of Slode's Call up to a maximum of 20 stacks. Each stack increases your spell damage by 150. So 150 times 20. But also increases your damage taken and reduces your healing taken and reduces the effectiveness of your shields by 20% and or 2%. And so basically what that is 2% times 20 is going to give you a 40% increased damage received, 40% reduced healing received, and 40% reduced shield size. And so when I say we're rolling the dice, we definitely are, right? We're running around with Imperial Physique to get max stats, and that requires us to carry a minimum of 10k Telvar on us. Okay, and so we have a minimum of 10k Telvar on us, and we are taking 40% more damage. But my whole thing was, how do I get this Thracian Stranglers to work in a PvP scenario or PvP situation? So that this is the build we put together. First thing you'll probably notice is we're running Mighty Chudans, and Mighty Chudans is going to give us the one piece is going to give us additional armor. It's also going to give us max health. We need both of those on this build for sure. And then the last one is gain major resolve at all times, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 52, 5,300. The important thing about that is I can't afford a couple things. Number one, we can't afford, with the way our current bar setup is, we can't afford to put our armor buff on here. Okay, and I could change some things and put it on there, but we need both shields for sure. I also need dark conversion as my most reliable heal and an ability to it gives us infinite sustain. So this is basically our burst heal, and it's not so much a burst when your healing is reduced by 40%, right? So but it's the best we have. We are running critical surge too, so we have healing in with the damage we're doing, and it just scales really nicely. So anyways, we didn't have a spot for it, and so Mighty Chudan kind of fit the bill. I didn't have to hit my worry about my armor buff going down, and all I really lost out of that scenario or that situation for the most part was access to minor expedition. When you buff this, or when you use the morph that we're using, grants you minor expedition for 4 seconds, and so I wasn't really worried about losing that. Um, So, Mighty Chudan kind of fit the bill for us and making sure our armor buff never fell off. And then, like I said, we're running Imperial Physique and we're running 2 heavy on this and then 5 light. And Imperial Physique gives you stamina recovery, magic recovery, weapon and spell damage. And then while you are in Imperial City, you tap into the power of the Telvar stones you are carrying, increasing your health, magic, and stamina recovery by 7,200 while you have 4 times Telvar. This multiplier, while you have 4 times Telvar stone multipliers, this effect is increased by 600%. And basically, that's just telling you what the buff is right now. We're getting 7,200 max health, magicka, and stamina. And if you're going to run Thracians, you're going to be taking 40% more damage. 40% less healing, and your shield sizes are going to be 40% less. You need max stats, so you need to just load up on it. And so that's why we're here with Imperial Physique. I want to try Thracians in a PvP environment, and we need to stack our um, stats. The other thing that we are running is we're running a 4-piece Clever Alchemist, only because it gives me 2 lines of max health and then some additional spell damage. I was trying to figure out like a front bar back bar setup for this to where I could activate Clever Alchemist on the back bar and then go back to my front bar for even more spell damage. It's a possible build, but in that moment I would actually lose my Imperial Physique buff, and I didn't want to risk losing 7k stats just to turn around and activate um, Clever Alchemist and gaining another 651 spell damage, and then going to my back bar. Um, it was going to make me extremely vulnerable in that moment. Like, we're already taking 40% more damage. So I just let it be with this max health, and spell damage. And it seemed to, we're just obviously stacking that max health. And we do have infused spell damage on all of those, so that's really nice. Let's look at the stats here, kind of buffed up. You can see when I hit my front shield and my back shield, our total shield size is not much at all. That said, we're just under 40k max health, and so we might have a total of 8 to 10k shields there. Not a whole lot, considering the amount of damage that we take. But um, anyways, looking at the stats here. You can see we've got 36k max magicka, 38k max health, and then max stamina is going to be at 25k. That's great because we're not going to block damage. We're going to dodge roll damage if we can. Our magic recovery is on the low, but we have infinites to sustain with dark conversion, and so that's nice. And not only that, we are running a lightning staff, and so if need be, we could just channel a lightning heavy attack, and it does a lot of damage. Like a basic tick with that, the lightning staff when we are at full K stacks, a basic tick hits for 3 to 4K, and then crits are hitting for 8K. So I could literally just light attack or heavy attack people to death in a PvP scenario with that much spell damage. Um, it wouldn't get them out as quick as going through our rotation, but um, anyways, our spell damage, like I said, will hit over 8k. We've got 30k crit or 30% crit, 8k spell damage, 30% crit, sorry. And then our resistances, we are not a Nord on this. I actually, weird situation, weird story. I selected Nord in the character selection, and when my character came out, he was a Breton. I don't know what happened there, but anyways, I don't normally run Bretons, and so I was looking. Well, he's got max magicka, and then he's got additional spell resistances, uh, and that effect's doubled when he has a status effect on him, and he has more magic recovery, and then he gets a cost to his magic casting spellcasting abilities, and so I thought, well, we'll just roll with it. Ideally, I knew that we were going to be running Thracians on this, and we were going to be taking more damage, and I wanted to be a Nord for the rugged passive. And I also wanted access to their passive ult generation through their racial passives. But here we are as a Breton. So if we would have been a Nord, we would have hit 30k spell resistance, roughly 29k, just below that, and our physical resistances would have been at 25, 26k. So we would have been pretty beefy. Um, but it is what it is. Let's buff up, and we're going to look at our tooltips on our abilities, and this is where it gets really silly. So I am running elemental weapon because we are a overload um, build, and so basically we'll just hit an overload, and as it's traveling to the target we'll hit elemental weapon. And you can see the tooltip on elemental weapons just below 15k, and your light attack will also do that's on top of what your light attack will do. And so my light attacks are hitting people right now for 8 to 9k, and then the elemental weapon is hitting them for another 8 to 7 to 8k. And so the burst damage on just a elemental light attack is extremely high. As far as hitting player characters, NPCs just get absolutely nuked. And I'm going to link a screenshot of my total weapon damage if I haven't already, and I'm going to link a screenshot or link a small clip of me clearing mobs, and you can see the amount of damage and how easy it is to clear mobs with this type of spell damage. And then I do have some footage of me like just nuking some people as well, but I'll have to track that down. Let me buff up again here real quick, and we are going to look at our crystal frags. So crystal frags has a 21,000 tooltip on it, and like I said, I think when I fully buff up, it gets even more. Um, it will be even more at the AK spell damage, and I probably have screenshots of each one of these abilities and their tooltips at the AK, so I'll link those if I can track those down for you. It's a really ridiculous build as far as the power that you can push out. Here we have a Haunting Curse, and our Haunting Curse deals 20,000 magic damage, and it's going to explode for that twice after 3.5 seconds. And then it also does 10k splash damage. So against players, it's going to do like 5k splash damage. It's pretty ridiculous. And then, yeah, you can see our Empowering Ward. This shield only gives me 4k shield down here in PvP because I'm at full stacks on my Thracians. So, and Battle Spirit cuts shield sizes in half. But at the end of the day, sometimes we just need to stack both our 4k shields to get an 8k shield buffer to burst someone down. Endless Fury is going to hit for 5,500, and if they fall below 20% health, it's going to explode for 20k damage. So finishing people's not very hard when you put Haunting Curse and Endless Fury on somebody, and then a light attack, and then immediately hit Elemental Weapon. Crushing Shock's going to hit, or frags is going to hit extremely hard as well. So the tooltips on these are pretty ridiculous. And you've already seen the tooltip on our power overload. That gets even higher when we're at AK spell damage, but 22,000, almost 23,000 on just basic light attack. And so like we were saying, we'll hit our overload, and you can see it's only 21 ultimate, so we have this up and available almost all the time. And I told you this does 8k on a light attack, and then another 7 to 8k on the elemental. So that's 16k damage. And if you were to cut this in half, it's going to be 10k damage. So we'll hit an overload towards somebody, and as it's en route, I will hit elemental weapon. And because this is considered a light attack, all three of those proc at the same time. So it's like a 30k burst on somebody just hitting a light attack. Pretty silly. So if you've never run an overload build before, the way overload synergizes with elemental weapons, stupid. You can stack a lot of damage, and the fact that we're running Thracians too even further um, amplifies that. It's pretty grease, as Nolan would say. This is a pretty greasy build. You'll burst people down in a heartbeat. That said, they can burst you down in a heartbeat too. No joke. I was taking a resource in Cyrodiil, and all the mobs are gone. I'm flipping the flag, and I'm just standing there. Um, and from the right side, I didn't even see them coming, but I get a single DK leap onto me to an execute. It was a DK dunk, and even with crazy stats, I'm still pushing 30k health, in Cyrodiil with different armor sets and stuff, but with Thracians at full stacks or whatever, the amount of damage you take is just ridiculous. But he just DK leaped right into me and execute, and I was dead before I could do anything. And so, anyways, that was pretty funny. But had I seen him coming, we might have got some shots, shots fired. But oh well. Um, So we looked at that. Our streak almost does 10k damage itself, so we'll hit people with 4 to 5k just streaking through them to hard CC them. And then like our back shield is another 4k. We do have channeled acceleration just for moving around a little bit faster to help us avoid things along with our streak. And right now I'm running Storm Atronach. I haven't morphed this yet, but on arrival it's got a 15k damage. And so if I need to create a line of sight for me to fire behind, I'll drop this and then just go through my elemental weapon rotation. And because this ultimate is so low, I'll actually get enough of this ultimate to where I can activate overloads firing from behind my Storm Atronach. I basically can create a line of sight anywhere I'm at. And then the thing about it is the amount of damage that I'm doing when I have full stacks. If they want to really kill me and like jump in and try and commit to killing me, they're going to take a metric ton of damage, and it's hard to target me when I'm line of sighting around this Atronach, and it doesn't create a line of sight problem for me, so I can shoot right through it. But yeah, anyways, that's the play. Create a line of sight, and then just go into my regular rotation. And as soon as I get enough ultimate, I can squeeze off a couple overloads paired with elemental weapons, and they're usually not there after that, right? Especially if I have Haunting Curse on them and Endless Fury. And so it's been fun. I wouldn't necessarily want to run into Zergs. Obviously, this is not an open world Cyrodiil build. If you were going to go open world Cyrodiil, I switch out my Imperial Physique for Shackle Breaker, and then I have infused enchants on everything. But down here in the sewers, if I were to run into 10 to 20 people by myself, I would just kite them. Now, if anyone pursued me, I would turn and try and burn them down because, like we said, it takes one DK dunk leap, and I'm dead because of the amount of additional damage I take. But if I can create some space and give myself, like kind of create a gun, a Western gunfight, I'll probably win that fight because of the just metric ton of damage that you can pump out. So this build is definitely cheese. I'm not going to deny that, but it's a lot of fun to roll the dice with risk and reward. Bare minimum, I'm running around with 10k Telvar on me. I'm at the 4 times Telvar gained. You can see down here in the bottom right, I'm gaining 4 times the amount of Telvar. So gaining Telvar on this, just me running from EP base to the middle and clearing Molag Bal, I'll come back with like 30k Telvar. Assuming I don't die. Now, if I kill anyone, I'm going to get a lot more Telvar than that. That's why this is my Telvar farming setup currently. The clear that I have is ridiculous. My ability to handle 1v1, 1v2, 1v3 situation is extremely high, as long as they don't coordinate dump ultimates on me. And it's just a lot of fun to roll the dice and to see ridiculous numbers in damage. Let's jump into the CP and we'll call it a day on this build. Anyways, Thracians is going to get changed next patch. I'll have to re-explore where that's sitting at. So in the Apprentice, we've got 61 points into Elfborns, so that gives us an extra 21% critical damage and critical healing. That's very important on this build. We need all the healing and crit damage we can get. Elemental Expert, we've got an extra 12% Flame Frost Shock damage, which is great because our overloads are shock, and our Lightning Heavy attack will proc Concuss, and it's shock, and we're basically shock themed. So Elemental Expert, 56 points there. Spell Erosion, we got 33 points there, so we got an extra 2,800 in our penetration. 61 points into Mastered Arms because most of the things that we do are considered direct damage. Our energy overload, those are considered direct damage, and then um, our elemental weapon and our light attack are a combination of of direct damage, Mastered Arms, and Staff Expert. And see, we got 59 points there, so that gives us an extra 29% to our overload light attacks and heavy attacks. So that's pretty heavy. Nothing into the ritual and Ironclad, I've got 61 points there, so we take 21% reduced damage in CP environments. And I've got 59 points in the spell shield, so our spell resistances are buffed up by 5,400 or 4,400. Sorry, 60 points into light armor focus for another 4,400 physical resistance. It's very important. 26 points into the Bastion. This is kind of a point dump for me, and I knew that our shields were going to be pretty weak, so I wanted to get as much into that as I could to help them out. 64 points into quick recovery. Our healing is going to be cut drastically when we're at full stacks, and we do need all the help we can get and as far as healing received. 11 points into Warlord. We are going to be CC'd. We will need to break free. 1 point in a Siphoner, so that way we apply an extra debuff to the targets that they need to cleanse. This is a point dump for me, but I do have a little bit in the Mooncalf for some stamina recovery because we do dodge roll on this to avoid major damage, get our shields back up. And so 64 points into Arcanist for magic recovery. It gives us an extra 13%. And because we are an overload or light attack, this build is very light attack, heavy attack centric with overload and an elemental weapon. Tenacity's the play, for sure. So that way our light attacks or increase the magic recovery, our fully charged heavy attacks restore by 13%. And so in a pinch, if we need to hold a heavy attack with our lightning staff, we're going to get 13% more Magicka back, and so that's nice because we're still putting damage into the target. 61 points into health recovery because if I can't beat the healing received, maybe I can help myself out a little bit with health recovery and some passive health coming in. 61 points into tumbling, so that way we do have 21% reduced cost to that. And that's our CP. A couple things about this build. If you've never run Elemental Weapon, for those of you that are still watching, a lot of people, as soon as they see the gear sets, they drop out of the video and they miss these key tips and things like that. Elemental Weapon is very bugged. I personally would probably prefer a crushing shock, like a heavy attack or light attack into a crushing shock combo, and I run that on my other Sorcerer Storm Atronach. But since for Valkorion here we're doing an overload type build, elemental weapons to play. The reason I say elemental weapon is bugged, there are times when you can simply not light attack an enemy player. They can be standing directly in front of you and I cannot light attack them. And I don't know if it's a bug with activating overload or if it's a bug with activating elemental weapon, but it locks you out of just light attacking the target. And it's not just light attack. I can't even heavy attack them. You cannot hit them with a light attack or channel a heavy attack into the target, which makes this absolutely useless and this absolutely useless. So the times I've been running around Imperial City or Cyrodiil, and that's happened, it's been extremely frustrating. And I basically just try and kite them out and I have to reload UI or log out of the game, log back in, and lose all my stacks. So there is a bug or some type of problem between overload and elemental weapon and how that works, and it happens more times than I would like. So not to discourage you from playing around with the build if you've ever run elemental weapons, because the times it works, it absolutely deletes people. And the times it doesn't work, it frustrates the hell out of you. So anyways, that's my little disclaimer for those of you that stuck around this far, and let you know that there is something going on with that. And for everybody else that didn't stick around that long, they'll find out on their own. So it's a crazy world out there with COVID. Everybody be safe. And here is my greasy, cheesy, overload, 8k spell damage, destroy everyone build, Valkorion. Thanks.